Herb. Herb is a plant. I mean, herbs are good for everything. Herb.
Welcome to Eugene Cannabis TV. You made it. You got Dank here, and this is episode 700. Believe it or not, we started this in the very early 2000, and we're still going. It's coming on 20 years. It's getting close to 20 years, and still doing it, having a ball. We could use some guests, so we'll talk about that later. I want to say, put that pipe down, that joint. Sit down for a minute, pick up a pen and paper and pay attention. You got some good stuff coming up here, and good information that you need to know about. If you care about cannabis, this is a show to be at and to participate in and help out when you can if you want. So anyway, I wanted to, let's see, I wanted to jump right in and talk about a dispensary here in Eugene, Flowr of Lyfe. I should have mentioned this more in the past, but they have been giving a free medical marijuana give out twice a month, on the 15th and the 30th. If you go in, if you were to go into the medical card, they would you have a choice of what was donated and leave with one or more items. And I participated a couple times, and it was very nice, very generous. We had some of the donations. I wish I had a list of who they were. I can't remember, but I do know one was Genesis Farms, and that's Sean Beeman. Sean Beeman is a good friend of ours, been on the show many times, and a real patriot for the cannabis cause. Anyway, so I just wanted to say that that's what happened. But however, I went in last the 30th of, or rather the 15th of January, and they had to postpone the program. They're going to have to try to reorganize it, get some more donations in for it. So, and I understand that some of the patients, from another feedback from a friend of mine who went in, apparently their patients are kind of upset when they go in for their free meds and there isn't any. So, anyway, I thought, well, you know, we need to be calling these people and, you know, and thanking them for what they have done. And I was a bit short myself, but I was disappointed simply. You know, we traveled quite a distance, and I know other people did too. But irregardless, they said they're going to be organizing that, and so check back on that. Check in with them. It's Flowr of Lyfe, and the phone number is 541-653-8801. And check out, like I say, check in with them and see when they hope they get that program back. And it's been a real help to myself. I know that. See, okay, and yeah, that was the main shout out. So let's jump into the story now. This is out of Delaware, so right off we're going out of state. But this I thought this was pretty major. This is coming from the Associated Press through ectv.700.2019-01-23, dated January 10th, 2019. Medical marijuana user fired from a job for failing a drug test can sue the former employer. A Delaware judge has ruled that a medical marijuana user fired from his factory job after failing a drug test can pursue a lawsuit against his former employer. Jeremiah Chance was fired in 2016 from his job as a yard equipment operator at the Kraft Heinz plant in Delaware. He claims his termination violated an anti-discrimination provision contained in Delaware's Medical Marijuana Act. Chance also claims he was targeted for retaliation after pointing out safety issues with the facility's railroad ties. The company argued that the anti-discrimination provision in Delaware's law is preempted by the Federal Controlled Substances Act, which defines marijuana as an illegal drug and contains no exception for medical use. In a case of first impression, Superior Court Judge Noel Primos ruled Monday that Delaware's medical marijuana law is not preempted by federal law. The medical marijuana law, quote, not require employers to participate in an illegal activity, but instead merely prohibits them from discriminating based upon medical marijuana use, Primos wrote. Primos also rejected the company's argument in ruling that the medical marijuana statute carries an implied private right of action, allowing a citizen to seek a lawsuit seeking enforcement of his rights under the law. The judge noted that no state agency or commission has been tasked with enforcing the law's anti-discrimination provision, and that a medical marijuana card holder filed for failing a drug test has no remedy other than a private lawsuit. Quote, he said, the fact that an anti-discrimination provision was included in the DMMA demonstrates legislative intent to remedy the problem of discrimination based upon one's cardholder status, according to Primos wrote. Kraft Heinz spokesman Michael Mullen said in an email Friday that the company had no comment on the pending litigation. The lawsuit comes as medical marijuana use and complaints that employers are mistreating employees who use medical marijuana are on the rise in Delaware. It's coming up repeatedly, employers trying to terminate folks who either have a card and they know it, or they test positive for marijuana, said Chance's attorney Patrick Gallagher. According to its most recent annual report, the State Office of Medical Marijuana issued 6,625 registration cards in fiscal 2018, an 85% increase from the 3,588 cards issued the prior year. Of the cards issued last year, 4,389 were for new patients, more than double the number of new patient cards issued in fiscal 2017. According to court records, Chance, who suffers from back problems and other ailments that have caused him to make frequent use of medical leave, obtained a medical marijuana card in 2016. In August 2016, according to the lawsuit, Chance submitted an incident report to Kraft Heinz management regarding unsafe conditions of railroad ties at the Dover plant. The following day, after meeting with a maintenance supervisor and warehouse supervisor, Chance was operating a shuttle wagon on the railroad tracks when it derailed. He was asked to undergo a drug test, which was inconclusive, and underwent a second test a couple of days later. After being told he tested positive, Chance informed a medical review officer that he had a medical marijuana card. He was fired 10 days later. He claims his firing violated the protections of the medical marijuana law, which says an employer cannot discriminate against a person based on his status as a medical marijuana card holder, or against a card holder who tests positive for marijuana, unless the person used, possessed, or was impaired by marijuana while on the job. While allowing the lawsuit to proceed, the judge dismissed Chance's claim that the company violated the Americans with Disabilities Act and Delaware's employment protection law for persons with disabilities. He said there was no legal authority for suggesting that a person who is a medical marijuana card holder has a disability. The judge refused, for the time being, to dismiss Chance's claim that he was targeted for retaliation in violation of Delaware's Whistleblowers Protection Act for pointing out safety issues. He noted, however, he may grant Kraft Heinz summary judgment on that issue if Chance is unable to prove evidence to support his allegations. So anyway, I'm really curious how that could affect Oregon, and they mentioned how it's part of the Delaware DMMA, the Delaware Medical Marijuana Act. So I need to contact some legalese people I know that see how that pertains to us. And now we're in Oregon. The Oregon marijuana could be exported across state lines under the proposed bill. This was written, was on the marijuanamoment.net website, written by Kyle Jagger, dated December 31st, 2018. Oregon could become the first state to allow marijuana exports to other legal states under a bill that's been drafted for consideration in 2019. According to the Statesman Journal, a business alliance is working with state lawmakers to push the legislation forward, and at least one Democrat state senator, Floyd Pizanski, has already signaled that he'd be amenable to the proposal. Adam Smith, executive director of the Craft Cannabis Alliance, which is behind the effort, said allowing interstate exports of cannabis marijuana products would empower the burgeoning legal market to expand in a way currently prohibited under both state and federal law. Oregon could become the first state to allow marijuana exports to other legal states under a bill that's been drafted for consideration in 2019. According to the Statesman Journal, a cannabis business alliance is working with state lawmakers to push the legislation forward, and at least one Democratic state senator, Floyd Pizanski, has already signaled that he'd be amenable to the proposal. What am I talking about? I just read that. Oh, that was, okay, I'm sorry about that. That was a double paragraph. Let's see. Under the proposed legislation, Oregon wholesalers would be able to export cannabis products to other legal states as Washington State and California, but it would not be legal to transport other non-legal states. The exports would be authorized if Oregon's governor made a deal with the receiving states. Pizanski made an earlier attempt to free up cannabis exports, but said his bill died in the state legislature in 2017. Federal prohibition is intrinsically at odds with state legal marijuana activity, but interstate exports could put states at particular risk. While former Attorney General Jeff Sessions rescinded an Obama-era guidance on federal cannabis enforcement efforts in January, its provisions have largely still applied. And and the memo explicitly forbade the diversion of cannabis or marijuana from states where it is legal under state law in some form to other states. The plan is to get lawmakers on board with the bill and vote on it in 2019, with exports estimated to begin in 2021. So we don't know. The Oregon legislature will be going into session. I'm thinking it's pretty quick. I can't remember it exactly, but it's right on top of it. And we have another story related to that too, which we'll be talking about when we get back. But I do want to open and remind everybody that we are looking for guests, and I'd love to have you come on the show. I look for people to tell their cannabis story. And people get tired of hearing my cannabis story, so let's bring in some new people that can talk about theirs. And go use a co-host too, either male or female, either one. But somebody to talk the stories with, and you could talk to, discuss the stories and get another viewpoint on air. So love to have some more people come in. It's behind Sheldon High School, and it's every Monday night at 4:20. And give us a shout, either through my email that's posted, or go through Facebook, Danford Cruiser. So I'll be right back. I'll be here. Hope you will too.
If you're an adult who enjoys a good beer, there's a similar product you might want to know about. One without all the calories and serious health problems. Less toxic so it doesn't cause hangovers or overdose deaths, and it's not linked to violence or reckless behavior. Marijuana. Less harmful than alcohol, and time to treat it that way. For more information, visit marijuanaissafer.org.
Welcome back to the second half of the Eugene Cannabis TV show, episode 700. You got Dank here, and we got another story. This one we're going back out of state again. Now we're going to Vermont. This really caught my eye. Vermont Supreme Court rules rules marijuana smell is not grounds for a search. This is written by Adam Drury. It was in hightimes.com on January 9th, 2019. January is already shaking out to be a big month for court rulings on the civil and criminal liabilities people should or shouldn't face over the smell of cannabis. On the heels of a federal judge's dismissal of a racketeering lawsuit against a smelly cannabis farmer, the Vermont Supreme Court has ruled that certain marijuana odors are not grounds for a search of persons or seizure of property. The important ruling creates a binding legal precedent across all courts in Vermont and comes at the end of a lengthy lawsuit by the Vermont ACLU. Simple cannabis possession has been decriminalized in Vermont since 2013, and in 2018, Vermont became the 9th state to legalize cannabis for adult use. But in March 2014, a Vermont state trooper pulled over Rutland resident Greg Zullo and ended up seizing his vehicle when Zullo refused to consent to his search. The officer asked to conduct the search after reportedly smelling burnt cannabis inside the vehicle. The trooper said he pulled Zullo over because snow was covering his car's registration sticker. Zullo consented to a search of his person, but police had to tow his vehicle in order to be able to search it legally. During that search, police found only a grinder and a glass pipe with cannabis residue. Neither items constituted a criminal or a civil offense under Vermont law. But Zullo's refusal to consent to a search of his car resulted in the seizure of his property anyway. Zullo, a black man who was 21, in 2014 took his case to the Vermont American Civil Liberties Union, which sued the state of Vermont over the search and seizure. Last Friday, the Vermont Supreme Court ruled in the ACLU's favor. Associate Justice Harold E. Eaton Jr. ruled that the state trooper was wrong to seize Zullo's vehicle after saying he smelled burnt cannabis. Furthermore, Justice Eaton Jr. ruled that the smell of burnt cannabis cannot constitute legal grounds for search and seizures. Throughout the proceedings, Vermont had tried to argue that it was immune from such lawsuits. State attorneys tried the case through a number of statutes involving illegal suspicion and probable cause. So that is encouraging. Oregon, that's another thing I need to talk about more, is the Oregon DRI, Drug Recognition Expert. Do a search on that on your own, and believe me, you're going to open your eyes. You've got to be careful out there. Cannabis is illegal, but you still got to watch your smell, because if they think you're using, if they bring a DRI in, drug enforcement officer in, anyway, we got to talk about that in another show. So anyway, that was real interesting. That's exciting. So now we're back to Oregon again, and here we're talking about the legislature. This is a new congressional marijuana bill. Is actually numbered HR 420. This is This is the federal one. Yeah, this is the federal one. Anyway, written by Tom Angel, is in Forbes.com, dated January 9th. In a hat tip to marijuana culture, lawmakers on Capitol Hill have actually observed the number HR 420 for a bill that would dramatically change federal cannabis laws. 420, of course, is a special number for marijuana enthusiasts who celebrate the plant extra hard every April 20th. The new bill, filed in the House on Wednesday by Representative Earl Blumenauer, Democrat, Oregon, is titled the Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol Act. If passed, it would remove cannabis from the Federal Controlled Substances Act. While the bill number may be a bit tongue-in-cheek, the issue is very serious. Our federal marijuana laws are outdated, out of touch, and have negatively enforced countless lives, Blumenauer said in a press release. Congress cannot continue to be out of touch with a movement that a growing majority of Americans support. It's time to end this senseless prohibition. This isn't the first time that 420 has worked its way into official legislation numbering. California's first effort to create statewide legal medical cannabis regulations was through a bill numbered SB 420 in 2003. In 2017, a Rhode Island senator filed a marijuana legalization bill given the designation of S420. And second story on the same subject, add a few more. This was by Associated Press, dated January 9th. Talks about Earl Blumenauer. He said the bill would take marijuana off the federal controlled substance list and establish a nationally registered industry overseen by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Arms, and Explosives. Blumenauer has long advocated legalizing marijuana at the federal level. He authored a blueprint last year for like-minded lawmakers on how to achieve the goal now that the House has a Democratic majority. Blumenauer is also the founder and co-chair of the Congressional Cannabis Caucus. Last week, Kate Brown said in a conference call with reporters that the discrepancy between state and federal marijuana laws is a big hurdle for the industry in Oregon, which has legalized marijuana for medicinal and recreational purposes. Brown said she hopes Congress will act to allow banks to do business with the marijuana industry. At the state level, State Senator Floyd Pazanski, Democrat Eugene, plans to reintroduce parts of a 2017 bill that would have allowed Oregon to enter into agreements with California and Washington for coordination of marijuana-related businesses. Recreational pot is legal in both neighboring states as well as 7 others across the country. So anyway, yeah, that's definitely encouraging news on that front. And also, I wanted to talk about something else that I came across. This is apparently an open, I'm not sure who's behind this, but I did come across it and I wanted to talk about it. It's called One Fix for Cannabis. Many problems, one fix. It says, Dear Oregon Legislature, this is dated September 27, 2018. We, the undersigned, call upon you to pass a bill in the 2019 session allowing the executive branch to approve licensed interstate cannabis transfers. Such legislation would not in itself allow interstate transfers, but it is a necessary first step toward a sensible and a market-based solution to the multiple interlocking crises enveloping the Oregon cannabis industry. Number one, interstate export would strongly incentivize licensures and would meaningfully reduce the amount of Oregon cannabis entering the illicit market. Crime and criminal activity would decrease significantly. Number two, the local portion of the tax revenues from interstate exports, potentially many times larger than in-state sales, can and should support revenue-strapped producer counties. Number three, interstate export could immediately end Oregon's oversupply problem and stabilize prices. It would save hundreds of local businesses and family farms that are currently at risk of collapse, preserving hundreds of millions of dollars in local capital and thousands of jobs. Oregon is a world-class cannabis producer with unmatched terroir, a strong regulatory and testing framework, and a deep knowledge base. We are and have always been an exporting state. There is a great demand for our products across the country. The border of our cannabis and the market distortion of prohibition have combined to bring the Oregon industry to crisis on several fronts, and the best way through is out. We must be prepared to take leadership as soon as the opportunity presents itself to export, and we on the legislature, when we call on the legislature to clear that path by giving the executive branch authority to act in its best judgment, sincerely and in the spirit of mutual benefit. So, well said, and I hope it's be well listened. I don't know. I don't have a lot of hope of the Oregon legislature giving their track record in the past, but it's what we have. So What I've said for years is we need a constitutional amendment. I've been advocating that for years. It's the only way around, but the people with the money don't want to put the money up for it because it's because it's a long story. But anyway, there's no money in really making it really legal. So anyway, this is Operation Scarecrow, and I wanted to speak on that for the rest of the show. I've mentioned this before, and this is trying to take care of the problem with the Oregon medical marijuana program. It's been ravaged and destroyed by the state government, so now we're trying to still help patients in spite of our Oregon legislature. Some activists have come up with a nonprofit idea here, and it's called Project Scarecrow. It's saying who we are. Project Scarecrow is dedicated to cultivating safe and legal access to quality of life products, therapies, and other services to Oregonians with chronic or debilitating medical conditions, especially those with limited resources. Our mission: facilitate or assist access to quality of life products, therapies, and other services to Oregonians who have chronic or debilitating medical conditions or are means tested, low income verified, who are among the state's most vulnerable minority population. Our vision: to heal the world through compassion care for our most vulnerable people. And they talk about, see, the patient membership. They talk about the patient membership here, and it's free to patients. And supporters can start at $1, and it goes from there. But again, that's Project Scarecrow, and the information on that will be posted on the screen. It's out of Salem. ProjectScarecrow.org is the website, and check it out. And again, you can get back to me if you need some more information on that. I appreciate you taking the time and watching our show, and I sure hope you watch next time, and hopefully next time one of you people will be out here beside me, because I'll sure be here, and I'd sure like to see some of you. And give us a shout. Give us a comment on Facebook on the comment section. I forget to look sometimes, but I'll try to remember to keep looking, because I keep hoping that somebody will comment. So I'd like to hear from you. So anyway, be safe. Be real safe out there.